Hiya, I'm Bruce Fummey. It's the 29th of January and welcome to today's episode of This Day in Scottish History. Yesterday's question, the answer was St Johnstone beat Dundee 7-2. Come on the Saints. I'm actually heading off to Australia and New Zealand on Sunday to do shows in Perth and Adelaide and Dunedin. So I'll be honest, I'm struggling for time this week. But I had to squeeze in today's episode because there's a great story about a wee lassie called Helen Glóg, who was born in this village of Muthill in Perthshire on this day in 1760. Now, the nearest town to Muthill here is Crieff, which is about 4 miles to the north. And Crieff lies on that geological fault line that runs east to west across Scotland and separates the rolling hills of the lowlands from the stark beauty of the highlands. But that fault line is not only geological, it's cultural. You see, because if you'd been standing here 4 years before Helen was born, you would have seen thousands of tired and bedraggled Highlanders going down the road behind us as they headed north to what would turn out to be the last battle on British soil. The Battle of Culloden. Little could they have known what lay ahead for them personally and for the way of life in the Highlands in general. And it was into that situation that Helen was born, the eldest daughter of a blacksmith here in Muthill who had 4 children. And in the years that she was growing up, I'm sure as the red-coated British government troops went up and down that road to suppress the Highlands, some of them maybe went into a smiddy shop to have a wheel mended or a horse shod. I don't know. What I do know is that, like all great fairy tales, Helen's mum died when she was young and her father married again, but Helen didn't get on with her stepmother. Now, there was no fairy godmother in this situation. Helen had to sort things out for herself, and what she did was, like many young people at that time, she decided to head to the Americas. And so, as a 19-year-old young woman, she set off for the port of Greenock in the west coast of Scotland to become an indentured servant in the Carolinas. In 2 weeks into the journey across the Atlantic, the ship was attacked by Berber pirates. Now, if that's a surprise to you, it shouldn't be, because for almost 200 years, Berber pirates had been attacking shipping in the Atlantic. And typically, the men might be killed or used as galley slaves, and the women would be taken to be sold in slave markets in North Africa. For a young woman brought up in this idyllic little village, you can only imagine the horrors of having to pass through Greenock. Oh. Anyway, things looked up. And in a slave market in Algiers, she was sold to a rich merchant who gave her as a gift to Sultan Abdullah of Morocco. And this beautiful, red-haired, green-eyed, strong-minded Perthshire lassie stood out. And the Sultan married her. Not only that, before long, she became his #1 wife. Now, we know about her story because she managed to get contact back here, and our younger brother Robert went out to Morocco and came back with news of her adventures. It's said that under her influence there was a reduction in the piracy and also that some slaves were set free. It's kind of like a fairy story, isn't it? Like this young, poor lassie goes through all kind of troubles and torments only to meet a prince and marry him, and they live happily ever after. But it wasn't a fairy tale. You see, when Helen was about 30, her husband died. And the son of one of his other wives, who happened to be German, tried to take power by invading Poland. He didn't do that. But in the civil war that followed, he tried to wipe out all his potential competitors. And Helen tried to protect her 2 sons by getting them into a monastery. Now, by the time a British envoy managed to make contact with her, both her sons were dead. I don't know what happened to Helen after that. I don't know if she faced the same fate as her 2 sons. I don't know if she lived out her life in North Africa or if she headed off to the Carolinas. I'd love to think that she came back here to Muthill and lived out her life in peace and tranquility. I guess that question will never be answered. But here's a question I'd like you to answer. When Bonnie Prince Charlie marched north, he had a council of war in a hotel in Crieff, just north of here. The question is, what's the name of the hotel in which Bonnie Prince Charlie had a council of war in Crieff? If you know the answer, please, as usual, stick it on a post beneath this video clip. And obviously, as usual, if you've enjoyed this, like and share the clip, like and share the Facebook page, Scotland History Tours. Better still, go onto YouTube and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Scottish History Tours. I'll stick a link immediately beneath this video clip if you're on my Facebook page, giving you a link to the YouTube channel and you can subscribe. That'd be fantastic. I don't know if I'm going to have time to do one of these tomorrow. I'd love to squeeze one in because something very important happened on the 30th of January. If not, I'll speak to you from Perth in Western Australia. Until then, ta-ta for now.